This is the Amy Edwards Show.
How many times have we read a book and thought like, that's an amazing book, and then we put it down and nothing changes? But we have an experience in our life, a breakup, a divorce, a business catastrophe, a health scare. We have something that happens in our life, an experience, and we become a different person feeling like almost overnight. That's integrative neural conditioning. Integrative neural conditioning is essentially rewiring the neural pathways of the brain.
Hello, and welcome to the show. I'm feeling good today. I hope you are too. And here we are, ready to get better and better in every way. So today we are welcoming Keala Kanae. Yeah, cool name, right? I love alliteration, and I love that name. So Keala is the founder and CEO of Inspirean. Inspirean and the creator of the Power Code, a revolutionary method that rewires your brain to unlock your highest potential. We are very here for that. There's a focus on neuroscience, high performance, and personal mastery. And Keala helps people break free from mental sabotage, procrastination, and self-doubt so they can live lives of power, purpose, and clarity. His mission is to inspire the world to see the infinite potential and expansive possibilities of the human soul. I feel that when I say it. I really, really do in my heart. And I just am so aligned with that. So, Keala, welcome to the show. I'm excited to have a conversation with you today. And before we get into rewiring our brains completely and tapping into our power and nerding out on that, which I'm very stoked about, I have to confess that I am like, if there's one thing that I'm really good at, it's procrastinating. And I know that I'm not alone. And so can we just kind of start there today? How did you end up even talking about procrastination? Are you a procrastinator? And what's happening when we are putting things off, even when we want to be doing them?
Okay, well, let's start with the smallest questions, Amy. All right, so before we dive in really quick, I just want to take a moment to encourage your listeners to leave a review wherever you are. I've been listening to some of your podcast episodes.
Hey, thanks.
And if I remember correctly, if I'm correct, you've been doing this for over a decade. And it's not, I've been on podcasts where it's clear the host is, they're just kind of going through the motions, and it's not something that they really love doing anymore. And you're definitely not that host. And I don't know if people realize how much work goes into making a great podcast. So wherever you're listening, drop a review. It helps Amy out a lot. And I think it's definitely worth a review.
That's really kind. And I just want to say thank you. Yeah, I've been in radio off and on for 30 years. And this is my life's calling. And I just, thanks. It was nice.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Yeah.
So yeah, let's rewind this just a moment.
Okay.
So talking about procrastination. So, I went from working in a coffee shop for minimum wage, living in my mom's spare bedroom, 500 credit score, to launching, growing, and building a business that I exited last year. We did over 140 million in that company. And through some really
by the way.
good.
I mean, you. Yeah. Right on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Not every day some guy from a coffee shop goes on to do that, So and a lot of that comes from doing deep inner work and some of the neuroscience that I'll share with you here. Today, we work with entrepreneurs, high achievers, people that are up to something big in their life. They've usually done some sort of personal development or quite a bit of it. And they still wonder well, why am I still I still find myself stuck, doubting myself, dealing with imposter syndrome, procrastination. I know that I'm capable of more. I'm not quite living up to it. And we have a very specific methodology, which we call integrative neural conditioning. The Power Code is a component of that. That we take our clients through. We 100% guarantee results, or we give them double their money back. So there's, no risk there. And let's break down, the science of it. So
cool.
What I'll share with you here, this is a mix of neurology, biology, teleology, which is the study of purpose, and axiology, the study of values. And So hidden inside of like the dark recesses of our mind is a code, I call it. And when we adhere to the code, we experience things like clarity, certainty, purpose, precision, power, action, duty, diligence, fortitude. When we don't adhere to that code, that unconscious code, we experience symptoms like procrastination, hesitation, frustration, self-sabotage, and imposter syndrome. So what if I told you that procrastination is actually the secret to discovering your life's purpose?
I think that's fabulous. I mean, like, great, because I'm good at it and so awesome. I'm procrastinating on like planning my wedding right now. So yeah, great. Tell me.
So that's antithetical to what we're mostly taught. Like most of us are taught that, procrastination is bad and something's wrong with us and we got to work on it and break through it. Well, when we look at a human being through the lens of axiology, we can observe that every human being has a unconscious set of values that governs our life. And when I say values, a lot of times people will associate that with social ideals. They'll think like, well, I know what my values are. They're honesty, integrity, respect, fairness, justice, equality. But those things are more social ideals. In other words, there are ways in which that we as a society agree that we should live. When I'm saying values in axiology, what that means is every day that you and I wake up, Amy, we have, there's the things that we value most in our life down to the things that we value so little that we might not even think about them. Okay. And those values will govern the entire way in which we filter the world around us. I mean, it governs all of our decision making. It governs like who we dislike, who we vote for, who we don't vote for. I don't want to get too political here.
Don't worry.
It's unconsciously driving almost all of our behavior. Now, more specifically though, it determines how we use our resources. So our primary resources are time, energy, and money. So every day you and I wake up, Amy, there's a finite amount of time, energy, and money that we're going to deploy in our day. We are going to invest those resources in direct proportion to the things that we value in our life. So the thing that we value most in our life will get the most of our time, energy, and money every day. And whatever's next, we'll get the rest of it. And there's a little left over for the third thing and the fourth thing. But eventually we're going to run out of resources in the day long before we run out of things that we want to do, supposed to do, ought to do, need to do, have to do. So when our goals are in conflict with our values, we will experience symptoms: procrastination, hesitation, frustration, self-sabotage, imposter syndrome. When our goals are in line with our values, we experience the opposite. We'll experience fortitude, diligence, follow through, certainty, clarity, confidence. And so when we are pursuing something that is in conflict with our unconscious set of values, we create these symptoms as a way in which that we wake ourselves up to the fact that we are straying away from purpose. So through teleology, we would say that the mind is a purpose-seeking machine. So whatever we perceive as most purposeful, most mission-oriented, like whatever creates the most meaning for us in our lives, our minds will naturally gravitate towards. Everything that challenges that, our minds will naturally want to move away from. So if you think about this, it's rather beautiful. It's like our biology, our neurology, our psychology is wired to help us accomplish whatever is most purposeful and meaningful in our life. Mm-hmm. Now, the challenge is that we live in a very noisy world. It's probably never been noisier than it is today. So oftentimes we inject from the outside world, from mother, father, brother, sister, preacher, teacher, institution, the media, whatever it is, we inject from the outside world what we think that we ought to be, should be, need to be, have to be, supposed to be in order to be successful. And we judge ourselves for who we're not rather than love ourselves for who we are. We pursue who we're supposed to be at the sacrifice of who we're born to be. And we get, caught in the crosshairs of abiding by the voices on the inside and abiding by the voices on the outside and ignoring the voices on the inside.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us in our work, and this has been something that's been very helpful for me, is therefore when I see myself procrastinating, or when I notice that I'm having that self-sabotage, that self-defeating behavior, my first question is, okay, so is this something that I truly value? And it's never something that I truly value, right?
Right.
What it is then is like, now there's really just two options. One, I either shift my values to match my goals or shift my goals to match my values. If I'm pursuing something that I don't love, I'm going to, I can either delegate it or learn to love it by linking it to the things that I value most, which many times I've had to do as an entrepreneur.
Yeah, that's what I have to do. Really, I have to mindset shift into a place where like it means something different. Like,
yes,
it translates to something like, oh, I'm gonna fit in my clothes if you work out, or what. I don't know. That was just one example. I don't know where doing my taxes falls exactly in that, but I know that I'm gonna feel better at the end. I always do. But like right now, I've been kicking the can down the road on that, and I'm like, I know I'm gonna have to do it, So that's one of those things that like I'll procrastinate on, and I'm pissing myself off, but I've got to like shift it somehow. How am I shifting that one?
I think it's likely important. I'll share that with you too, because I deal with some of the same. Like, if you look at my life, you can easily observe that I have a very high value on business.
Mm-hmm.
So my business will get the majority of my time, energy, and money every day. Now, that doesn't mean that I love doing everything in business. I surely don't like reading the contracts that are sent to me by lawyers. I don't like going through, like, as much as they're important, don't get me wrong, balance sheets and P&Ls. I don't really like sifting through that stuff. There's things inside of my values, or like inside of my business, that I gravitate more readily to. So if you want to talk about human behavior, I'm all about it.
Right.
Marketing and sales, all about it. Business strategy, all about it. You want to talk to me about accounting? Snooze fest, right?
I'm right there with you. Yeah. It's not my strong suit at all. Like it's challenging for me too, So like, what do you do?
So something to note. So the neuroscience of this is that when we are pursuing something that's in conflict with our values, we bring online the subcortical portion of the brain. So the amygdala, which is a survival mechanism, right? And so the amygdala's job is to survive, and it's to protect resources, right? So if we look at our resources as a survival mechanism, time, energy, and money, when we're pursuing something that is low in our values or in conflict with our values, the amygdala comes online and it identifies it as a predator. It's like, no, you don't have time to go to the gym. We don't have time to go to the gym. Like, we're tired after that. We can't, our legs hurt after that.
It's killing
us. It's killing.
We cannot survive. Yeah.
But even more than that, what it's doing is it's taking time, energy, and money away from the things that we value more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if for me, as an example, if an entrepreneur has a high value on building a business and they set the goal of getting a six-pack, if those two things are not linked in their unconscious mind, they will likely have a very hard time doing the gym. They won't invest enough time, energy, and money for a long enough period of time to make manifest that thing in their life.
Mm-hmm.
So when we are pursuing things that are in line with our values, we bring online the prefrontal cortex, the portion of our brain that makes us human beings. It separates us from everything else in the animal kingdom. That's where all of our creativity, our rational thinking, it's really where our genius comes from. If the subcortical portion of the brain is the animal brain, because there's a perfect balance of opposites of everything in the universe, then we would call the prefrontal cortex the angelic portion of the brain. So you have an animal brain and an angelic brain. The angelic brain is why we ask, like, who am I? Why am I here? What's the meaning of life? What is higher purpose? These sorts of things. When we bring that portion of our brain online, we are unstoppable. Like, we are unstoppable in the pursuit of whatever that is. So when I'm experiencing procrastination, as an example, first, I've got to know what my values are. And as I said earlier, like, we mostly don't know what our values are.
What are yours?
So when I'm referring, business, number one.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, these next two will flip-flop back and forward. So I label it as business, learning, and leisure, right? And that would be the order that it's in right now. So if I'm not working on my business, actively working on the business, I'm usually listening to a podcast, reading a book. I'm going to a seminar, going to an event. I'm doing something where I'm learning how to either be better at the thing that I'm chatting with you about, or better as a better leader of my company, And if I'm not doing one of those two things, that's when I will, unplug from work at the end of the night and have some dinner, go for a walk in the park with my fiance, lay around and Netflix and chill. Actually, Netflix and chill, not the Urban Dictionary version of Netflix and chill.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you can look at any day of my life and it revolves around that. So if I'm doing something that is in conflict with my values and I'm experiencing procrastination, then the first thing that I want to do is ask myself, okay, well then how does this help me accomplish the things that I value most in life? That's why I call this the power code. Because like, once we get this and we're clear about like, this is who I am. This is what I'm here to do. This is what I love doing most in my life. And I don't care what all the voices outside of me say about it. Right. Then I can utilize that to act as, to kind of weaponize my mind as I'm moving forward. So,
yeah, I feel like I've done that too with a lot of things like drinking, like I've cut out drinking in my life because I know that I love to get up in the morning. I love to be productive. Like, that's who I am. That's one of my values. And that makes me feel good. And if I don't have to sleep, if I'm drinking, like, just like it spirals. And so for me, that association has shifted into not fun with other people, but rather like the importance of my life. Right? Is that kind of the same sort of thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I read a book. Called, I was on a flight one time and I read a book called Why We Sleep.
I love that book. Matthew Walker.
Yo, okay.
Big fan.
So
big fan.
I was like, wait, we sleep to heal our brain? And like, I'm basically a mental athlete, right? Like, that's what people in the knowledge industry do. I'm like, so I'm having a drink every night to go to bed, and I'm actually ruining the tool that I use. So instantly what happened is, and like, this was not something that was like a major issue for me. It wasn't something that I was like thinking about all the time, Amy. It was literally like the moment that I connected alcohol to getting in the way of the things that I value most, my business, alcohol was out of my life.
Click.
It was like,
right. It can be as simple as that. That's a great point. Yeah.
Right. So that was like, and that was, I probably had maybe a handful of drinks in like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
As a result.
I was with a group of women the other day that, and my friend group has shifted. My partner is completely sober, and so that's the way I live my life. And I was with a group of women just the other day and they were great, but the way they were like drinking and socializing and all that and eating. And I was like, I'm so not aligned with this anymore. And I excused myself at a certain point and I was like, okay, bye. But I was just like, that's not my scene anymore. That's not serving the best version of me, which is the walk I try to walk, like doing all this, right?
I have it's funny that this comes up. So as when we were chatting right before this went live, I was sharing with you that like, we're packing up the house, we're selling the house in Vegas, and we're moving to their house, to a ranch. Texas. And I found this painting a buddy of mine had made. It's a piece of art that a buddy of mine had made for me. And it's a picture of me holding a bottle of Ace of Spades in a nightclub. And he had it like made like picture, poster size. And it says at the bottom of it, some people golf, some people Omnia. Omnia is a massive nightclub here in Las Vegas, right? And it was kind of a joke. It was I think it was for my 40th birthday or something. They gave that to me. That's how much like I used to party and drink. Cause like my friends were like, he's turning 40, get him a poster of him holding a bottle of Ace of Spades. And then as soon as I connected the dots that is in challenges something I value, it was like done. Right.
Yeah.
Another great example was like during the pandemic, we were locked up for my fiance and I, we were locked up for like 70 days or something. And I got on the scale one day and I looked down and I was like, oh my God, I think I ate a second grader at some point while we were locked down here. And so instantly I know, right? Like instantly I know I must not have a high value on my health because the scale says I don't have a high value on my health. My words can say all this stuff, but we have a saying in Inspirean, like results often harsh, but always fair. If I want to know what I'm committed to or what I truly value, look around. That's what I've been committed to up until this point. That's what I've really valued up until this point. And oftentimes for most people, it's not what their mouth says, right?
No.
And so as soon as I saw that, I'm like, oh, wow, I don't have a value on my health. And so I hired a trainer and I started working with that trainer 3 days a week, 6 a.m. And because when we're operating from our highest values, we have inspiration. And the etymology of the word inspiration means from the spirit within. So we're moved from the spirit within to go do something. If you have a mom who has a high value on taking care of her kids, she doesn't need to put their soccer practice in her calendar. She remembers it by heart, right? She doesn't need an accountability partner to get her up out of bed every day and be like, take them to school.
Right.
I don't need an accountability partner to hold me accountable to my projects. But when we lack inspiration, we will lean on motivation. So when we're pursuing something that's lower in our values and in conflict with our values, we need external motivation. So we want outside force to hold us accountable to doing the thing.
Oof, that's good right there. Yes, we do.
Right. It's not necessarily wrong or bad. I'm not saying that it's wrong or bad. I'm simply saying that, like, how many times do we set a goal and think, like, if I just had an accountability partner?
I know. Yeah.
And that's like the sign that
that you don't really want to do it. Like 100%.
Exactly.
I mean, like I talked to somebody the other day that was like, I want to start a podcast. And I was like, do you? Okay, here's some tips, right? She was asking me tips and then she was like, well, I want someone to do, like, she basically wanted to outsource everything and whatever. I was like, this doesn't sound like you really want to do it. You don't want to do any of the work, like it was not a priority. And like, yeah, it's like obvious.
They want the outcome without the investment, right?
I mean, and I've been guilty of that plenty of times. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. I'm human, right?
So going back to that example with a trainer, just as something that your audience can understand. So I know that I don't have a high value on health and wellness at the time. I know then that I need external motivation or else I won't do it. So I hire the trainer. But what's interesting, like what's unlike what most people do, when I would come home from my sessions with a trainer, the first thing that I would do is ask myself, okay, so how is this a benefit to my business? And so I'm looking for those, I'm basically rewiring my brain.
I love that.
To associate working out with performing well in the business, right? And so I would start noticing things. I'm like, oh, look, my energy is up. Like I'm making better decisions. I've got better cognitive function. I would start looking up things online and asking questions. This is before there was a chat GPT. I was asking questions, right? Trying to find more and more evidence that me working out was something that was helping my mind, helping me be more effective in the business. What ends up happening is about 6 months later, I fire the trainer. I'm going from working out 3 days a week to 6 days a week. Even when I'm traveling, I will pick my hotels often based on the gym that's in the hotel. And today, when like you would see me work out every day, but I would categorize that under my business. Like that's part of me being a CEO. That's part of my training to be a CEO. Whereas somebody else might categorize that as health and wellness or their physical fitness or however they categorize it in their life.
Or better parent, right? Because it can make you like more active or whatever you want to categorize it as.
Right.
That's really cool. And that's such a testament to the asking the right question at the right time, which is what you did in that moment, right? Like, I know someone who always asks after they meet with someone, like, how do I feel after I meet it with that person? And they keep a record of it. And it's just like we have these questions that we can ask ourselves and don't even know what we don't know, right? Like we don't even think of asking that, like how that could be beneficial to our business. That's really cool. Good example.
I have a mentor that likes to say that the quality of our life will reflect the quality of the questions that we ask.
Ugh, I love that. I love that. And I like playing with questions and asking ridiculous questions. And I've been a proponent of that for a while.
Give me one. What's a ridiculous
Why
question?
is life just throwing all these amazing opportunities at me? Why is everything working out? I can do it on a dime. I can do, and I can just walk around the kitchen and then I start laughing and then you're bringing in, if we want to get woo, I know you like some woo too, but like then you're just bringing in this energy and the universe, your brain, everything can just conspire and start like searching for answers. And when you ask that question, like, how's this making me better in business? Like you're immediately already linking that like your brain is like searching because that's what our brains do, right? Like that's part of our neuropathology.
It has to answer a question. Right? It doesn't want to just leave an open-ended question.
Right.
So the moment that we ask a question, we start to, at a quantum level, because of entanglement, we would even say that like the question and the answer are the same. Like because a question is asked, there must also be an answer.
Oh, shit. Right? Oh, no. Oh, okay. Oh my God. I'm going to ask so many more questions now. I love that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of what we take not all, but a good portion of what we take our clients through is understanding what their unique power code is so that they can use that as a way to, so I want to be clear about this too. I think it's important. Like, I'm not saying that I never procrastinate. I'm not going to say that like I never have imposter syndrome or I never have self-doubt. I just learn how to turn it into a tool that moves me forward versus an obstacle that makes me stop. That's it.
Amazing. Yes.
That's the difference.
Yes.
Right.
And that's massive. I mean, it's like that thing about denying our humanity sometimes, like if the spiritual bypassing or whatever, like, right. Like, it's not like we don't get angry. It's just, you have the tools and you're better equipped, which is why we do all what we do, you and I anyway. And like, then you're more equipped to handle what comes our way as a human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Okay. So, you answered one of my questions too. I think it was about if we all have a unique code, which we do, right? It varies from person to person, or whether there was just one sort of overall code. So, yeah, the integrative neuroconditioning, I like that a lot. And I guess that's rewiring, right? These connections, correct?
So that's where we get into neuroscience. So our clients that want to go further, so I have a whole free, at thepowercode.com, there's a free assessment that somebody can take and they can discover what their power code is. I have a masterclass, like a 2-hour training that they can sign up for that goes along with it. And that, like, I go really deep on the power code in that. And cool. I give in that thing, I give away like, here's exactly how to use this. Here's how to set it all up. Now for the clients that are like, well, do this with me, I want to get the result faster. Then we have, a series of trainings that we do. But when I'm talking about integrative neural conditioning, what we're really talking about is like brain change. So when we're talking about changing our results, what we're then referring as a byproduct, we're automatically talking about changing our behavior. If we're talking about changing our behavior, we're really talking about changing our thinking. And because our behavior creates our results and it's a byproduct of our thinking. Now, if we're talking about our thinking, there's really two parts. There's the conscious part, which is about 5% of our thinking. And that's where somebody learns a new skill. Can you learn a new skill that will change your behavior, that will change your outcomes? Absolutely. Most of us have tried to learn skills, though, and we just don't act on them. Like, we all know what it takes to be wealthy. Like, save a portion of your income and invest it, right? So earn more than you spend, save the rest and invest it. We know what it takes to, be healthy, diet and exercise. We know that to have a, deep meaningful relationship, we've got to keep dating and, have radical honesty in our conversations, like keep that romance alive. Like we know what to do, right? It's just that the real question is, why don't we do it? And so when we're talking about changing our thinking, as a byproduct, we know that 95% of our thinking is unconscious. Like, so Dr. Zaltman from Harvard really helped like solidify and create, fact-based evidence around this. And so that's where when we're talking about the unconscious mind, what we're talking about is rewiring the unconscious mind. And so the brain is essentially a set of neural pathways, right? So energy, stimulus, something happens, stimulus. There's an electronic pulse that takes place in our brain. That electronic pulse is going to go through any number of a set of highways, and it's going to exit somewhere in terms of it becoming an action. That's just a set of neural pathways. If we're talking about changing our neural pathways, there's a few ways to do this. Repetition is the most common one that most people refer to. That would be like affirmations.
I've had to do that tons.
I still do affirmations every day.
Every day. All the time. Me too. I have them on Post-it notes everywhere in my house. Like, yeah.
Those questions that you asked were examples of what some people might call affirmations as a slightly different thing. Well, like you're asking the question to create the evidence, to spawn your mind to observe something in its environment that it otherwise might not have observed.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'm a big fan of saying it out loud too. You don't just repeat it in your mind, like actually use your voice and hear yourself saying it.
And a step beyond that is like feeling it.
Yeah.
Right. So it becomes a part of the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So repetition, that can be meditation, it can be affirmations, affirmations, and these sorts of things. But what we also know is that the brain is an adaptation tool. So the higher the stakes, the faster it adapts. So experience will change the brain faster than repetition, right? Like, and we all know this. I mean, how many times have we read a book and thought like, that's an amazing book, and then we put it down and nothing changes? But we have an experience in our life, a breakup, a divorce, a partnership, a business catastrophe, a health scare. We have something that happens in our life, an experience, and we become a different person feeling like almost overnight. That's integrative neural conditioning. And so in our classes, we take people through a series of experiences where they're learning through experience. It's highly interactive. And as a result, what happens is their brain begins to change, like, without going too far down the rabbit hole and explaining the boring science of this. I don't want your listeners to probably, their eyes are glossing over at this point, but
not mine.
Not mine.
I like it.
So yeah, ultimately what's happening is their brain starts adapting and changing like in the experience. And then we have our advanced classes, which are in-person events where we can take that even further. So integrative neural conditioning is essentially rewiring the neural pathways of the brain, or what we would call remyelination of the brain.
Remyelination. I've never heard that word. Cool. Yeah. I've had to do a lot of work to do it. My neural pathways were pretty deep. I did psychedelic work. But I love this idea of experiences and the power of those, because that's going to be so much greater than reading a book or something like that, or even, meditating your way around it. That takes a lot of time. And I think that experience can trigger it just a lot quicker.
Well, it's how most of our belief systems are made. So we know that from 0 to about 7 or 8 years old, a child's brain operates at theta. So theta is essentially hypnosis, right? So that's why we say so often, like, their mind is like a sponge. They learn so quickly, right? Well, but again, because there's a balance in the universe and a benefit and a drawback for everything, the drawback of that is that they don't filter out the trauma either.
Yeah.
Right? So they don't have a rational brain to say, like, mom and dad divorced because mom and dad don't communicate well and they were better off. Like, it's like, no, dad's not around anymore. He must not love me. I'm not lovable. Mm-hmm. And that like becomes a belief system for them, right? So we know that about 85% of all of that, in cognitive psychology, this is called schemas. In our classes, we call it programs. We know about 85% of that is developed by the time that we're 7 or 8 years old. So if you're listening, what that means is that there's an 8-year-old behind the wheel of your car right now, in the driver's seat of your life, right? And it's why when we get triggered, we act childish because we're reverting back to that original source of pain. So when we look at those experiences in childhood, what creates these schemas or programs or belief systems, it's a highly charged emotional experience. And with a child's level of understanding and awareness, they're trying to make sense of the world around them so that we create a belief about ourselves or the world around us. And that belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy over and over again, right? If I'm not lovable, good luck trying to love me, right? If I'm not worthy, good luck trying to get rich. I'm not beautiful, good luck trying to get in shape, right? So all we're doing in those classes is we're taking that same formula of an emotionally charged experience wherein we create a belief about ourselves or the world around us. But now we're creating that same experience, but with an adult. And that adult has a rational mind. And so that adult can now create a belief that serves them rather than imprisons them, right? So you can do years of therapy, or you can come to a three-day class, and a lot of times we get people that walk out, they're like, I got more out of this than I have after my 10 years of therapy. Like, yeah, wow. It's normal, because we're using the body's physiology as a tool to rewire its neurology and get those outcomes just a lot faster. Because, to be frank, sitting around and rehashing our traumas and talking about it over and over again just makes it seem that much more real and true. It doesn't really, do the healing that it was intended to do.
I just get tired of it at a point too. It's just like, okay, how long am I going to do this? At least I've looked at my own life, like even just things I repeat in my head or things that I don't even know where they came from. And I'm just like, how long am I going to do this? And you sort of like, that can really snap you out of that cycle, I think, when you're just like, I'm sick of this. And sometimes you don't know how to change it. And that's where something like that would really be useful, right? When someone's really ready. Do you still find yourself using those tools sometimes? Can you catch yourself pretty quickly when you have something come up like that? Or do you even have those come up anymore? Or?
Oh, yeah, of course. That last question you just asked is a really interesting question to me because there's this kind of a narrative in society. I call this like just the greatest human illusion.
Oh, okay.
That like...
Do tell.
Do tell.
Do tell.
I just feel like there's this narrative in society that, that to be successful or worthy or enlightened means that at some point you're going to get to this place where like you're always happy, never sad, always kind, never cruel, always honest, never dishonest, always peaceful, never wrathful, always positive, never negative. And that's just a fantasy. Like that's a perpetuated fantasy because 10,000 years of written human history, find me one person who's done it.
I know, right? I'm a big fan of Ram Dass, and it's about, or Michael Singer, right? It's about the person it's about this entity, right? That you are behind all of these emotions that come and go,
So you're like, you have the emotion doesn't have you.
Totally. Yes. Yes. You aren't that's not, like who we are essentially. It's something that we experience. So,
Well, yeah. So like from a physics perspective, right? So in physics, we can observe that like in any closed system, the universe being a closed system, there is like the languages of the universe is equanimity or equilibrium or homeostasis. So in other words, there's a balance, right? There's always a balance. If we would, here's a simple example. I'm oversimplifying here. I'm going to admit that, but a simple example that most people can understand. If we agree that the universe is made up of energy, energy is made up of atoms. Well, we can observe that an atom is equal parts positive charge and negative charge. And if that makes up the fabric of the universe, then what can exist in the universe that's not both? So we're always going to experience these things, right? Like what and you just had a guest on where you guys were briefly talking about this. Actually, I was listening to it. I forget her name. Dang it, I wish I did. Anyway, she had mentioned though, like how oftentimes we like date the same person over and over again, but with like a different face and a different name. Yeah, so we tend to get caught up in revolutions. And I don't want to get too boring with the science, but like whatever we resent, we attract, become, or create, right? So whatever we haven't learned to love, we just keep living that lesson over and over again. They're just usually in some different form. But when we have that breakthrough, and when we do learn to love it, when we learn the lesson, we don't eventually evolve to somebody, a being that's going to be always happy, never sad, always kind, never cruel. We just evolve to learn a new lesson. And we'll do that until we die.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yes, I use these tools. And yes, I'm still human and experience the things. Again, it's just that I have a set of tools that allows me to move through many of life's challenges faster. And at the same time, like for every level, there's another devil. So anytime that I've been leveling up in a big way in my life, there has been like we want a breakthrough without a breakdown.
Right.
No, we don't.
Like
they come kind of hand in
new
hand.
Thing. Yeah. You know? They do.
And so there's definitely been times where it's like, well, even though I know all of these things, this seems insurmountable at times. And then, I got to remind myself that like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. It's like, it's one day at a time. Some days it's one moment at a time, and just work through. But to your question about like, so, and how do I use that, or do I still experience these things? Recently, I was on I'll give you, this is what we're talking about in practice. This is what it looks like in practice. So recently I was invited on to speak about sales and marketing. So this is, in a previous life, I did a lot of sales and marketing, and I sold that company last year, but I still get asked often to train on these topics. So a woman asked me to come out with her audience and do a training do a Q&A session on sales and marketing. And so we're on for like 90 minutes. These are some pretty high level people. I mean, a lot of these folks are making 6 figures a month, and they're asking me questions about their marketing and whatnot. And towards the end of the conversation, another woman like unmutes and she's like, hey. So a woman had asked a question. I'm answering the question. Another woman like unmutes and she's like, hey. Like, I know we're all here to hear from Keala, but like I disagree. I think like this, and this, and this. And she kind of went off on her own tangent about it. And at the end I was like, shucks, we should have just asked you, So when shortly thereafter the call ends, the woman who was the host of the call, she sends me a message. She's like, hey, thanks so much. That was amazing. I really hope that so-and-so didn't upset you when, she unmuted and said what she said. And I was like, as I'm listening to that, I was like, there is definitely something, I can feel it. Like there is something happening in my nervous system. Like I'm feeling a charge about this, right? And so I asked myself, I said, like, if they asked me to do this again, would I do the class again? No. What comes up for me is like, no. Now for me, I know then, okay, I'm triggered somewhere. Something is triggering me, right? So I asked myself, okay, so that's amygdala brain. That's animal brain. I'm feeling this emotion. I'm not sure why. So as we go through life, we have experiences. We tag these experiences as good or bad, because if we don't have polarization, we don't learn. So the amygdala tags these memories as good or bad. Those memories get stored in the hippocampus. And when something reminds us because the brain is always creating shortcuts to help us navigate the world. Because if you and I were trying to process everything that there is to process right now, we'd get nothing said or done. So as soon as something comes on that comes up that triggers an old one of those memories, the brain kind of shortcuts to, oh, we know where this is going to go. And the challenge is that oftentimes what happens is that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We create the same thing over and over again because we drag our past, our baggage, our traumas, or whatever it is, we drag that into the present, and we make decisions in the present based on the traumas of the past, which repeats the traumas over again in our future. So we reforecast our future to look a lot like our past, and we wonder why we feel like we're on a treadmill half the time. So I get this little voice in my head. I'm like, okay, I'm definitely triggered about this. So first thing I want to do is name it to tame it. I want to bring I want to get out of my, animal brain into the limbic brain. So I'm saying, okay, so what exactly am I experiencing? What exactly is the charge? Oh, I feel embarrassed. In that event, at that moment, I could not have said I feel embarrassed that she spoke up. Afterwards, when I'm looking back, I'm like, oh, I feel embarrassed. Here I am positioned as this expert. I'm doing my best to answer these questions. And a woman speaks up. She kind of undermines me and says I think this, and this instead. And I was embarrassed. So I asked myself, okay, well, what's my earliest memory of being embarrassed? And what comes to mind is I was playing in the backyard with my next door neighbor. Her name was Soraya. She was a couple years older than me. And I'm about 6 or 7 years old at this time. And I soil myself. We are playing and I'm so excited playing. I don't want to stop to go to the bathroom. And I end up wetting myself. Okay. And then I'm running home as it's happening, realizing what's happening. I'm running home and I run in my back door. And as I go, and Soraya's making fun of me the whole time, laughing at me. I run in my back door. My mom's in the back door. She's in the kitchen. She sees me and she's like, what are you doing? What's wrong with you? And I was like, sorry. And she's like, don't you know how to use the bathroom? Why didn't you come home and use the bathroom? So she's scolding me, right? And this whole memory comes to mind that I haven't thought of in years. And I say okay, so how was that a benefit to me? How was that experience a benefit to me? Because if it's coming up for me, it's tagged as a negative. It's tagged as a drawback. There has to be a benefit. What's the benefit? Well, one, I'm 6 years old. I'm learning about my physiology. I'm learning about how my body works. I'm learning that I got to learn at some point that I cannot hold my bladder forever. Glad I'm doing it at 6 years old. Not 16 years old, when I run home and my mom starts scolding me or getting upset with me, I had to learn how to communicate to her and talk her down. Hey, Mom, sorry about that. Well, I communicate for a living. I mean, my primary role in my company is a marketer. Marketing is communication. So my mom is fulfilling an assignment to help me fulfill my purpose, becoming a marketer. I had to learn resilience. I had to step back outside and go see that friend because I still wanted to play, and I had to face the fact that I was embarrassed and that, she was making fun of me. So I had to learn how to be resilient. And as I'm asking myself these questions and I'm seeing all these things, and those are just a few that came to mind, I was like, there's this moment where I go, well, how do I feel now? If they asked me now to go speak, would I go speak? And I was like, yeah, I would go speak again. Because I'm thankful, right? Because what she did is she created an opportunity for me to love something in my past that I hadn't yet loved, so that I can evolve from using that as a trigger to, evolve past that to learning some other lesson in my life that I'm here to learn, right? Because, what's the purpose of being here and spending all this time here if I'm not going to continue to evolve throughout it, just repeat the same things over and over again? And so I saw the hidden order in the apparent chaos, the blessing in the apparent curse of that experience, was thankful for it, and would do it over again. And that's a very small, minute example of but now take that and then take something that's one of the most traumatic experiences of your life and understand how that served you and get to a place of gratitude for that experience. And then when we have that power, like in one of our advanced classes, we take people through an experience where it's a 2-day process. Like it takes a while, and it's science-based, research-backed. Like we break it all down, we show it to them. There's no rational way that you would argue with the science. But in 2 days, they walk out of that portion of that class thankful for something that previously, many of them for decades, they believed was baggage that they carried. And when you can see how one of the most challenging things in your life was also an equal and opposite gift in your life, when you're armed with that knowledge, when it lives in your nervous system, it's not a lecture that was given to you, it's not, notes that you wrote down on a piece of paper, but it's an actual physical experience that in your body, you are overwhelmed with gratitude for that experience. The reason that we take people through that is because if once you've experienced that, then what in life can stop you? Because you'll forever be armed with the knowledge that no matter what comes your way, it carries with it an equal and opposite blessing. I have a mantra. I've just tried this on recently, and I really love it. It's this must be what's best for me because it's what's happening.
I love that. It's so powerful, right? And I mean, that's just going to force you into shifting into like the mindset of finding ways that it is perfect for you. And just like you sought that out in that story, which thank you for telling that too and being so vulnerable and like open about that. That was such a great example.
Yeah. I mean, it's like that mantra, it's just become a shortcut for me. So I used to start out like, as I learned this stuff, I'd be facing challenges and be like, all right, so what's the upside to this? What's the benefit to this? How is this serving me? But then I also find that like this must be what's best for me because it's what's happening. It allows me to like just surrender to it without having to rationalize it. Like just in faith. No, like who am I to know? I mean, like,
damn right. I mean,
who am I to know what's best for me? You know what I mean?
You don't know. And we think we do. And that's that striving for control so many times. And speaking of that, that's kind of getting into the woo territory. And I'd love to know, a little more. You mentioned that at the beginning. And I think you come off as someone so rooted in science. But I mean, there's a lot of crossover in that for me, right? If we're going to get into quantum and all that. And I'm just maybe like, what's one of your most woo beliefs? Like the one you just mentioned, I think is so powerful because that really is full surrender and trust that we don't know what's best for us, which can be perceived as well.
It's funny because so you asked me what is your most woo belief? And I think it would only sound woo to people who don't know the science of it. But ultimately, I'm on a mission, and Inspirean's on a mission, and I don't really say this publicly. I mean, I guess up until now.
Okay.
But to help people see that everything is love. And that's not the same as saying that love is everything. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that we are here inside of this, whatever we call it, whatever this experience is. And what we are experiencing is love. What we're as human beings, we tend to make up this story about love. If you love me, you'll never hurt me, but find me one person who's ever been in love and not been hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So the hurt must be part of the lesson. The hurt must be part of the experience.
If you're putting words in there, right? If you're saying the word hurt, the universe hears hurt. The universe loves you, wants to give you what you are asking for, and then there's hurt.
Yeah, well, because we can't have one side without the other. Here's a great example. I saw, you know who Jensen Huang is?
I don't.
Jensen, he's the CEO of NVIDIA.
Okay.
So if anybody doesn't know what NVIDIA is, they basically make the microchips and everything at this point.
Yes.
Okay? So billionaire. He's speaking at Stanford University. He says, and I'm going to, obviously paraphrase a bit, but he says essentially, you Stanford graduates, you tend to have high expectations, and you should have high expectations. You went to a great school, you have great curriculum, you're surrounded by some of the brightest minds. We have Stanford graduates at NVIDIA. And he says the thing about people with high expectations is they tend to have low resilience. And unfortunately, resilience is important in success. And resilience is learned through suffering, because the challenges that we experience are what builds our character. So he says, this might sound weird, but I wish upon you ample doses of pain and suffering so that you can learn resilience. And the audience laughs. And I think the audience laughs partly because, one, we hide our tragedy with humor. And secondly, because we all know that there's truth in that. That like the most challenging things that I've ever been through in life were the things. And here's the thing is like when we're going through it, we fight it, resist it, resent it, whatever it is. But oftentimes we look back and that's why we say hindsight is 20/20. We look back and we say that I can see now how that served me. I can see now, like, I wouldn't want to be with that person. I can see now how, that business shouldn't have been successful. I can see, like, we can look back and see that those things ultimately served us. But what if we operated in the present moment with that truth right now, rather than having to wait 10 years to see it,
So challenging sometimes, but it's so valuable.
Well, the source of all human suffering is found in the gap between what life is and what we think that it ought to be.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, right? Like there's life, then there's what we think that it's supposed to be. And when those things don't line up, the gap is all of our suffering.
Right.
And so when I say like everything is love, and again, in our advanced classes, we take people through a whole experience around this. Everything that like, again, it's hard. Like, this is why you ask, like, what's your most woo belief? And I'm like, man, it's so hard to articulate. But we are here experiencing love, that we are loved, that like when it feels like the road is being ripped out from underneath us, it's really the road rising up to meet us. When it feels like everything is falling apart, it's actually falling together. When it feels like times are the toughest, it's what's making us the strongest. When we ask for courage, we don't get courage. We get opportunities to become courageous. When we ask for patience, we don't get patience. We get opportunities to practice patience.
I know that.
And so we are loved in a more deep and profound and magnificent and spectacular way than any of us could ever articulate. And that the beauty of what life is far more magnificent and powerful than any projection or bias that we could project onto it. And we are also human. And so oftentimes we miss the love that's happening from day. So in this tattoo is a bunch of this whole sleeve that I have. It's literally
I was curious about that. It looks really interesting.
It's literally just a bunch of opposites.
Oh.
Right. That there's a balance in the universe. And at the top it says everything is love. And that's been like my greatest life lesson. It's the heart of our message with our clients. And it's the mission that we're on, that we are pursuing, the message that we are on a mission to deliver to the world.
Love is my religion. And that was beautifully said. That I really, we think so much that we're going to understand things. And I think surrendering to our humanity that we're not going to understand is great. Like, it's great. It's kind of load off, like it's all right. And that's been a surrender for me as well. But beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that.
Well, Thank you for asking the question.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that was a little bit more nebulous, I suppose, or just bigger, but pulling it down. Let's talk about a couple little practical things before we go, because we're coming up on time. I want to know kind of what your day looks like. I want to know maybe, some hacks or habits that are non-negotiables for you that are your kind of everyday go-tos?
Hmm. Typically, like one would be for sure, like my affirmations or
What are some of your favorite affirmations? Well, I know you shared one of your new mantras. That was
well, typically, one, I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom, which I actually got from my mentor, one of my mentors. His name is Dr. John DeMartini. And a lot of our work that we train on actually stems from his work. So standing on the shoulders of giants. A lot of the stuff that we shared today, I didn't invent. But I am a genius and I apply my wisdom is something that I say to myself often. That people will travel any distance and pay any.
I have one kind of like that downstairs. It's it's from Gay Hendricks, and I don't have it down, but it's like in my kitchen, and it's about applying my zone of genius or living in my zone of genius. And yes,
Um, People will travel any distance and pay any price to receive my service of love.
ooh,
Is
that's
another one.
good. Yes.
Yeah. And then other than that, my affirmations will kind of shift from like depending on what goals or projects like we're working on at any given time. So as an example, we easily attract 300 Genesis attendees every month. So Genesis is our 3-day introductory class, right? And right now we're working towards the goal of we're doing about 100 plus per month. We'd like to get to 300 per month is like our next milestone. So that's like something that I'm saying to myself throughout my day, as I'm working on things. Other non-negotiables is a lot of what I shared with you here. Like as my day goes on, as I'm facing challenges, as I, this morning, like I woke up in a project that's really, really important to us in our marketing. It's several days behind, and I wake up and I'm initially charged up about it. I'm frustrated with the team. I made a post in one of our Slack channels about it saying, hey team, like what's going on here, yada, yada. And I'm asking these questions about it. And then I sit down at my desk and I'm drinking my coffee and I'm like, well, how is this? What am I learning from this? What's the benefit of this? And I'm just like pulling that information out to the point that I'm like, I can see how like this actually makes us better. And then by the end of the day today, just before we jumped on this call, 2 minutes before the call, the guy that's running my marketing team is like, hey, we just uncovered this in one of the ad accounts, and like that, without getting going down the rabbit hole, that thing is costing us like literally thousands of dollars a month that's seeping out of the business that we didn't know about. So had we been on time, had the project gone perfectly, that would have been another hole that went unplugged, right? And so there's a benefit to every drawback, right? There's a blessing in every curse, and so one of my non-negotiables is practicing what I'm sharing with you here. Other than that, my day-to-day life looks like, it sounds like that Rihanna song where it's like, where all I do is work, 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 and nothing else makes sense.
You'll be at your ranch in Texas soon, so you'll have plenty of other stuff to do, I'm guessing. Well, that's a whole different type of work.
That's what I'm looking forward to, is like being in nature.
Yeah.
It was just the break that I didn't know that I needed. We bought the ranch and we were on it was for the company and like for our retreats. And we happened to be in Dallas for an event. My fiance Tiani, she's like, we should go stay at the ranch. I'm like, what for? I don't want to stay at the ranch. She's like, but we should get familiar with it before we build on it. I'm like, no, we don't have to get familiar with it. That's what we have architects and stuff for. Like we hire them for that. No, but we should really, like experience it so we know what the customers are going to experience. And eventually I'm just like, all right, fine. Well, we go out to the ranch. We're there for 2 weeks. At the end of 2 weeks, when it's time to go home, I was like, I don't want to go home. Do you want to stay? She's like, babe, we have to go home. And now I'm the guy that's like, no, let's stay. And that was kind of the moment that I knew like our time in Vegas is numbered at this point. All I know is when I walk outside every day, it's 300 acres. When I walk outside every day, it's butterflies and flowers and birds singing and the neighbors' cows. And it's not the city. It's not hustle and bustle. It's just that reconnection with nature that I didn't know that I needed.
Oh my
at this
gosh, you don't know
phase.
you need it until you're in it. We moved kind of West Austin and like I didn't realize that living in a townhome in the middle of Austin was like not serving my soul in the way that I needed. And I came out here and I was like, oh my, I feel like I can breathe and we have a view and it's just, you know, just more nature in my soul. And like you don't know until you have it. And then you're like, wait, I was missing this. Right?
Well, isn't it funny? Because like life seems like so full circle. Because like, you go back 2 generations and our ancestors were trying like hell to get off of a ranch or a farm and get into the city. And then our generation, I have so many friends now that have bought farms or ranches. And I'm like, now our generation is going back the other way. Where we're
Yeah.
realizing like, hey, we forgot a part of ourselves back there. I mean, at the end of the day, we're natural. Like we belong in nature. I don't know that we belong in the concrete jungle. Listen, I love New York, but like, and I love visiting there, but I didn't know that what I really needed was like to hear the birds sing and not
Yeah.
hear traffic jams outside my window.
Well, maybe it's the balance that you were talking about, too. And like, and as humans, we're just these creatures that remember, that forget and remember and forget and remember. And that's part of the joy of this whole thing, I think. And so now you get to remember this
And
fully.
are you guys on land out there in where you are in west of Austin
Not really, no.
or
I'm in a neighborhood, but there's like a hiking trail and a lot of green belt and things like that right here. We have a pretty decent lot with, some land and a pool and a view and, so it's like that. So, no, I've never lived on a full ranch with a whole lot of land. So, even though I'm a
yet?
Texan. Mhm.
Yeah. You can come visit ours at
I
some
would
point.
love to. And honestly, attending one of your events sounds really powerful. You are just so great at conveying things with so much clarity and ease and simplicity in the best way because and I love that. I don't like things that are too confusing. I get kind of discombobulated. So I just want to say thank you for that. And like you're really doing a service to a lot of people with that. And as we are wrapping up this interview, which has been fantastic, I've really enjoyed it. What would you like to? What is there anything that we missed, or anything that you'd really like to say before we go, or something you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Um, I'll share a quote. Um, I've shared it often, and I just happened upon it recently.
Cool.
And it's like been like in the forefront of my mind. And it is, the master in the art of living makes little distinction between their work and their play, their labor and their leisure, their mind and their body. They hardly know which is which. And I've been blessed in my life to like it's said that the 2 most important days of our life are the day that we were born and the day that we find out why. And I spent the last like 8 years like pursuing a financial endeavor, until the point that, and I don't regret it. Like it was a beautiful experience and I love doing it. And I love like practicing all these things that I'm sharing with you here. I put them into practice in my life. Like I didn't learn those things and then turn around and start teaching those things and I make all my money teaching it. Like I went and I applied it to building an empire and it was beautiful. And it wasn't long that I was doing that before I realized like that no amount of money is going to make me incrementally more happy. Like Jim Carrey says, I wish I could give everyone in the world a check for $10 million so they would realize that that's not it. And but of course the people without the $10 million are like, well, prove it though. Prove it. Like I need to know this for myself. Yeah. And I don't blame them. I needed to know for myself too, But there's a difference between like filling your bank account and filling your soul. And I'm grateful for those experiences. And I also like love like that James Michner quote, to wake up every day and be on a mission. And not that it's going to be always positive and never negative. Not that it's going to be always easy, but that it's going to be worth it. That the challenges are worth it. And that you welcome the challenges because you see how they like They increase you. They add to you. They magnify you. Like it is the fire through which you forge the character to become the person you long to be, you know? And I wish that on every, like, I wish I could bottle that almost.
Yeah.
And, you know, everybody could taste the elixir. But if you could bottle it and sell it, it wouldn't be worth much. But ultimately, that's the mission that we're on, is to help people, like it worked for myself, to find their purpose and wake up every day and live it, you know? And I wish that on all your listeners, whether that's, you know, through the work that we do at my company or through whatever work modality that they find it through, but to live that purpose-driven life. It's like to know with certainty and clarity, like who you are and why you're here, what you're here to do. And when the voices on the inside are clearer and louder than the voices on the outside, then you become a master of your life.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
That's it.
That's it. That's all. That's it.
That's all.
How can everybody work with you and find you? And it'll all be in the show notes as well.
Thepowercode.com is probably the easiest place to like really get value from us right now. I mean, obviously I'm on Instagram and I'm on YouTube, and we're getting more of our organic content out there, but thepowercode.com is like a free assessment. It's simple to do. It's 10 questions. You know, you come up with 30 answers, and it takes about 30 minutes or so for the average person. And it's helping provide that clarity about what is your purpose? What does your life demonstrate is your meaning and calling? Not what you think that it's supposed to be or ought to be or should be. What does your life currently demonstrate? And then from there, you know, if you want to go further down that, you know, there's a 2-hour masterclass that's optional that goes along with it. And from there, that's a great place for somebody to start, you know,
Beautiful.
Learning about what it is we have to offer.
I will make sure that is in the show notes and very clickable and easy for anybody who wants to go do it. I am very curious. I would love to do it. So I really enjoyed our talk today. And thank you, Keala, for all that you do and all that you shared today and for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I appreciate it. And go leave those reviews, folks. Leave those reviews. They matter in the podcast world.
Absolutely. Yeah, you hit us up when you make it down here to Texas, for sure.
Will do. You'll be the first to know.
Absolutely. Right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks to him, I loved that conversation. Got philosophical and deep, and those are some of my favorite things, right? When we really push ourselves to surrender, to think, to ponder the great things of life. And then guess what? You got to go make dinner and you got to go do the laundry. And this is all part of it. So thank you so much for being here today. And you might have been listening to this while you were making dinner or doing the laundry, and to which I say thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being here today. And I feel like I have to go back over that whole interview and really, really listen to it again, because it was just had so many beautiful things within it. And you know how sometimes you can check somebody out online and you can really get a feel for their energy. And when I checked him out, I was like, oh, I like this guy. Like I like what he's all about, and you can just tell. And so anyway, I hope you enjoyed it like I did. And so thank you so much for being here. Follow the show, follow YouTube, leave a review. Thanks for what he said too about leaving a review. So grateful. Probably need to ask for those up top, right? So anyway, here we are asking for it now. So thank you. Hair, the Collective ATX, if you need extensions, they're the jam. I straightened it today. So if you're watching, it looks really good. I mean, and these are still the ones that are like a year and a half old. So I'm about to get new ones and I'm pretty stoked. Yeah. So connect with me if you want to. Reply to the newsletter, hit me up, DM me at Real Amy Edwards on Instagram or wherever. Reply to the newsletter. It's all good. I get your messages and I'd love to hear from you, or just comment on the show on YouTube, wherever. I try to keep up with everything. So thank you so much for being here. I just love you to pieces, and I'm just so excited that we're all just on this path together. I just feel so lucky to be here and with you. So thank you so much. Keep shining bright. Till next time. Thank you so much for being here. Please rate, review, and follow us. And we'd love to hear your feedback. Keep shining bright.